Global population is a growing problem. The global food system is a system that keeps the world fed. It encompasses global food trade routes, agriculture, shipping, among other things. It's threatened by a growing population because we can't grow enough food and supply it fast enough if our population grows out of control like it is now. We're at 7 billion people today, and it's already hard enough to feed everyone. And it's, well, a growing problem, pun intended. And we need to find solutions for it as soon as we possibly can because civilization could very well be just ended by at least 2050, or maybe even before we even get to 2050, because we have other problems to worry about, like global warming, the seas rising, and several other things. We aren't going to be able to sustain such a large amount of people, like I said earlier, because we just won't be able to grow food fast enough to keep up with our population. Situation's kind of spiraling out of control at this point. China is currently the fastest growing country in the world, population wise, with India not far behind them. Both are already getting overpopulated, and their situation is only worsening as time goes on, and they just keep pumping out more people. And if they don't do something about it, it's just gonna keep going on, and it's gonna get more overpopulated, and there's gonna be less food. They're not gonna be able to feed people, and then a lot of people are gonna die. It's sad. It is. It's the truth. Three-state overpopulation is a big threat to the global food system. This is because, according to the Hill, which is a web article I found, feeding the 7.3 billion inhabitants of our planet today is daunting. An increasingly complex, globalized network of actors play a role in the production, harvesting, processing, sales, and consumption of food. This complexity among major demographic shifts increasingly threatens the health of the world's people and our planet. So we basically have to change food policies now, for it's too late and we're overpopulated and we're starving to death because we can't grow food. We can't match the demand of all the people on our planet. We already can't do that in some places, such as like mainly third world countries. Yeah. Also from the same article. No, this is from the University of California. Through technical innovations, we have expanded agricultural production during the last century to meet food needs. However, hunger remains a serious problem for approximately 800 million people worldwide, due in part to limitations in food distribution to areas of need. Food is also starting to have to be genetically modified, or it's just so that farmers can grow it at the rates we need to supply it to people. And we need to find a solution to the problem that is our growing population, and something that the solution may very well be hidden in history, like looking back. Population growth has only really recently become a problem in like the past century or two, really. Historically, world populations have hasn't been very large until like the turn of the century, around the 1900s and beyond that. One civilization that faced, or in this case faces, well, it faced it in the past and it still has to face it now. It's China. They're a rapidly growing population. They have more and more mouths to feed. Nowadays, they they import a lot of food. They genetically modify their food, like a lot of industrial countries, actually. Thinking about it, yeah, similar to many other countries. Looking back and at China, we can learn from their mistakes and make sure to improve upon the points where they failed. And well, they obviously haven't really addressed the problem, and their main cause of their downfall and our downfall really will be overpopulation, because overpopulation even ties into stuff like global warming, because the more people we have, that's more carbon emissions, more fuels being used up, more energy sources being depleted, more resources being depleted, because we have to meet the demand of more and more people, right? So overpopulation is really just the biggest problem out of all of these. Uh, we can, I guess, what we can do to like help the problem is regulate the amount of children people can have, like current day China is doing, I believe. We can come up with more renewable resources and materials, like, for example, wind and solar power, although they aren't very popular right now and they don't always work. They're something, they're not fuels that are being burned, they're not carbon emissions. What we really need is something like, I don't know, like nuclear energy, but it's like something where we use like the CO2 in the atmosphere to generate energy somehow. I don't really know how that would work because I'm not that smart. But maybe someone will invent it in the near future. And we also need new ways to grow and supply food. Even though like genetically modifying stuff has become kind of a problem within the past couple of years. Like genetic defects can be a big thing. Like if there's one thing wrong with the crop, it just wipes out and it just wipes out the entire field of crops. And it's also making pests. It's making pests. It's giving pests a lot of an easier time because all the crops are identical. It figures out how to get rid of one. It'll figure out how to get rid of all of them. Like if it figures out how to get rid of one banana, that's all of your bananas gone because they're all the same genetically. Same thing goes with like a virus or a fungus. It only has to figure out one host's genetic makeup, and then it just wipes out your entire field. In conclusion, our population is growing too fast for us to be able to reliably supply it in the next couple of decades, and we need to start regulating its growth somehow, or eventually we're just going to destroy ourselves by there being too much of us as humans because we're using up too much resources, too much energy, too much food. And I think that my recommendations will achieve the sustainable development goals because it'll probably solve the one about world hunger if we do it correctly, and maybe even global warming. Uh, we could all be dead in a few decades thinking about this. Like the threat of overpopulation, global warming, hunger, they're like really real. It's really something to think about, like how we can fix this.